Ed Bird's taking over the radio station, producing the women's basketball game. Took the last hour of the extra point. Now he's going to produce our little mini get-together here. And we appreciate Ed popping in like always. What's trending at 2, start with what you just heard here on the game. It took a little bit to get going. But in South Carolina, the women eventually pulled away, and I guess you would call it easy as the second half progressed, 82-46 over Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern was up by 4 after the first quarter and only trailed 34-26 at the half, and then South Carolina said, okay, we're going to get serious now. We're going to quit shooting opposite-handed and let's do this thing for real. Outscored Charleston Southern 48-20 in the second half. Offense, much more efficient in the second half. Defense, much more efficient in the second half. Defense really wasn't an awful issue in the entire game. Charleston Southern only had 26 points at halftime. But then 26 points at halftime, 20 points in the second half. Really, the offense needed to get cooking. Gamecocks really struggled early offensively and through the first half. But fourth quarter, 28 points. Like I said, 48 points in the second half. Really started to hit their mark a bit in the second quarter as they scored 23 there, outscoring Charleston Southern 23-11. Before it was all said and done, Joyce Edwards off the pine. The freshman went for 20 points, also 6 boards and a couple of steals. Then South Carolina had 4, 5, 6, 8 players with at least 6 points in the basketball game as they move forward into the new year. And just want to remind you that you'll be hearing Thursday night basketball for the women on our sister station, 98.5 WOMG. Throughout the 2025 campaign. So Thursday night women's hoops on 98.5 WOMG. All right. So other Gamecock stuff. Yesterday, Shane Beamer introduced a new offensive coordinator, Mike Shula. And Mike Shula got to speak to the media. We're going to get a bunch of that stuff in here. Also some Shane, because Shane had a couple of interesting things to say as well. So we got all that coming up. Gamecock updates from the football team, in case you missed any stuff. Through the transfer portal comes Andrew Jones, Grambling transfer linebacker. He was the SWAC Defensive Player of the Year. Some other schools were chasing Jones: Ole Miss, Oklahoma State, South Florida, Georgia State. Heard from over 20 schools is the word. I like Andrew Jones, athletic linebacker. Made a lot of plays behind and at the line of scrimmage. Again, we know he's got to make that transition, does Jones, from the SWAC to the SEC. He was the guy that started his career at Memphis, has 1 year of eligibility left. Again, stats: 122 total tackles, 57 solo, 20.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and a defensive touchdown. Athletic guy. And the one thing you saw this year, if you ever doubted it, is how important speed and athleticism and playmaking is on the second level of your defense. Yes, the edge guys were phenomenal, and Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart. Yes, the interior of that defensive line with that rotation with Boogie and Tonka and TJ and Jules, those guys were really good as well. But those linebackers, man, the second level, instead of making plays 5 and 6 yards down the field, they made plays at the line of scrimmage. Last year, what was a 6 or 7 yard gain? This year was maybe a 1 or 2 yard gain. And there were times, you thought a ball carrier broke through the first level. Linebackers on the second level said, I don't think so. And they would make a big play. What Demetrius Knight and Debo and Bam Martin-Scott did to make this defense as good as it was cannot be understated. Speed, athleticism, and playmaking at the linebacker position. Andrew Jones could bring that. If he can transition what he did at Grambling to South Carolina, really, that'd be a really good get by the Gamecocks. And obviously, you need linebackers. And those 3 guys we just talked about all are finished at South Carolina. Brian Thomas set to return for a final season at South Carolina. Brian Thomas Jr. signed a deal with Garnet Trust, but the thing about Thomas, This year, he got his reps on the edge, 4.5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss in his 3 seasons at South Carolina. But last year, 3.5 sacks and 6 tackles for loss, playing behind Stewart and Kennard. What you're hoping is Thomas, and again, is it going to be a rotation next year on the other side across from Dylan Stewart? Will someone take over? And hopefully, I mean, you would love to see another Kyle Kennard type of year, but just bring enough on the other side to complement Dylan Stewart. We'll see. But Brian Thomas will be back and did get better in 2024. So we'll see what goes on there as well. All right, so Shane Beamer talking to the media. And in case you missed this yesterday, you might have seen it written and talked about. But Shane Beamer talking about the latest regarding opt-outs for the bowl game. That's cut 2 there, Mr. Ed Bird. You can fire that up for us, my friend.
Yeah, right now I'd say the only one that's definite is Kyle Kennard. Don't believe that he's going to play from what he's conveyed to me. We talked about it last week when I was out in Houston with him Steve and I were out there for the Lombardi Award, and we talked about it. You know, he mentioned it to me that night, and then we talked about it a little bit more the next morning. So he's one right now that's not with us, and say there's one other one, David, that's still weighing his decision, and everyone else has told me they're in and ready to go try and get a 10th win.
All right, so Kyle Kennard, I mean, no-brainer, right? I mean, when Kennard declared for the draft, you figured he wasn't going to play in the bowl game, but it never came out, right? Official. But Kennard opting out of the bowl game, again, not a surprise. Kennard, I think securely will be a second-round pick in the NFL draft. Field Yates mock on ESPN.com had Kennard going 30th, one of the last picks of the first round, to the Green Bay Packers. So Kyle Kennard, protecting himself from injury, making a business decision, which I totally get, will now go work toward the silly season that is preparing for the NFL draft. You know, starting to work out, you know, trying to get, you know, probably going to some kind of speed school to get quicker and faster. Also, you know, getting stronger, cutting any body fat he needs to cut, learning how to interview, learning how to do all the things you need to do to crush it in the silly season that is visiting teams, NFL Combine, all that other stuff, playing in postseason all-star games. I mean, that's important as well. So Kyle Kennard getting ready for all that. The other player who's 50-50, my first thought is Nick Eamon-Warry, another guy who I think will go in the second round of the NFL draft. Eamon-Warry is thought of highly in NFL draft circles. He's a number 2 safety on Mel Kiper's big board. And I've said this over and over again. Nick Eamon-Warry is going to kill it at the Underwear Olympics. The dude is big and fast and strong. He will hit all the physical metrics that will make these scouts drool. That will be Nick Eamon-Warry. I will be surprised if Nick doesn't just tear up the combine. And we'll see. But I think Nick Eamon-Warry is a second-round pick in the NFL draft. And we'll find out if this silly season can help him, because sometimes it does. But Nick could be the one on the fence. Could be Rocket Sanders, even though, I mean, Rocket Sanders will be, I think, a third-day pick. But, you know, he's had some injury issues. Is he a guy that says, I don't know if I want to play and, you know, risk injury? But if Rocket Sanders plays and has a fantastic, Citrus Bowl against a good Illinois defense, could that help his draft stock? The other guy's T.J. Sanders. T.J. Sanders is going to get drafted. I could see Sanders go third round. There's some people having him going higher. I've seen some third, fourth round mocks, some grades, but I've also seen people who think of him even more highly than that. So could T.J. Sanders be the guy who says, you know, I'm just going to start working for the draft. So I think that's the guys you're talking about. Okay, who could the opt-outs be? That could possibly be the direction there. Shane also talking with the media yesterday, discussing the importance of win number 10 for the South Carolina Gamecocks in 2024. Cut 6, Ed Bird, just fire up some Shane about the 10th win if South Carolina could pick it up.
Yeah, it would be huge. It's only been done 4 times in the history of this football program. So to be on the team, be a part of a team that does it for the 5th time ever would be a really big deal. really big deal. And Illinois is very motivated. I think if they win this game, they'll tie their record for wins in a season. So well aware of what they have. So to me, I was down in Orlando Sunday night for an event with the bowl with Coach Bielema from Illinois, and it's one thing we were both talking about is this is a bowl game that both teams are excited to be in it. Both teams are motivated to win it because of what could potentially come out of it. For them, it would be a record for wins in a season, or tying a record. For us, it would be 10 wins for the 5th time ever here at Carolina. So there's a lot of hunger and a lot of excitement. These guys have earned this bowl and have earned a great time to go down there and have a whole lot of fun in Orlando, but also knowing that there's a really important game on the 31st that is the reason that we're there, and that the impact it can make, not just on this season to finish it the right way, but even going in to the future as well.
Getting the 10th win, how important it is to the program, and it could be for this team, because if you're one of the 5 that have finished with double-digit victory seasons in South Carolina, you're probably not going to have to buy any food or beer in this town, probably ever. So it is a thing. In Illinois, same thing. They'd like to get to 10 wins. All right. What's trending at 2 will continue. We will hear from Shane about Mike Shula. Then we'll hear from Mike Shula about Mike Shula. That's coming up next on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Ed Birds here. We roll till 3 on the game. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Terry Ford, glad you could be hanging out as we do the halftime show, only up until 3. Then Elijah Campbell will take over the postgame show up until 6 here on the game. All right, Mike Shula introduced yesterday as a new offensive coordinator at South Carolina. And just in case you didn't hear it, Shane Beamer was asked about hiring Mike Shula. And here's cut 5, Ed Bird, was Shula the first choice as new offensive coordinator?
Yeah, you're kind of like stealing my intro, Jack. Like that was going to be part of the thing when I get to intro him here in a second. Dang, man. Stealing my thunder. No, I would say when we were able to bring in Coach Shula last year, I remember I was down in Florida with my wife for like a long just weekend just to get away. And Sean Ryan was in this role last year. He's now with the Miami Dolphins. The year before that was Freddie Kitchens. And then Sean left to take a job with the Dolphins. And the day that Sean left, Dow called me immediately and said, "Hey, what do you think about Mike Shula?" And my initial reaction was like, "You freaking kidding me?" Like, absolutely. Because I knew what Mike Shula was about as a coach, and then what I didn't know him well, but what I thought I knew about him as a person, I thought he'd be a dynamic fit because of the kind of person he is, the background that he's had. He's called plays in college. He's called plays in the Super Bowl. And he's worked with different skill sets at quarterbacks, but specifically, as I've mentioned to you guys before, I think Josh Allen, Cam Newton, bigger bodies, athletes like our quarterbacks are right now as well. So it was a home run when we were able to get him here. And then since he's gotten here in January, he's been even better than I thought he would be, Jack, just in the regards of helping our offense, the influence he has in that offensive staff room. I'd say everybody in this building, people like everyone in this building. I would say everybody in this building loves Mike Shula. And that's not just saying that because he's here. Like, people in this building love him. And he's made us better. So when Dow told me that he was leaving, I knew it was a possibility. Well, first of all, you back up when you start having the season that we're having, or even when you're not having that season, you're always thinking about, if I lost this coach, who I'd want to replace him with, and you're always thinking ahead as a head coach for the next step. And certainly offensive coordinator is no different. And then I knew Dow was interviewing, and then he called me. I was over in Atlanta for the SEC championship game when Dow called me, and then that's the day that the news broke. I was at the game literally when the news broke. So immediately your phone starts blowing up with people that are interested in the position. And when you're a 9-win team and you're nationally ranked and you got a quarterback like Lenore Sellers, there's going to be a lot of offensive coaches that want to be a part of this. So certainly there was a lot of interest in the position that either called me directly or worked through agents to reach out and let me know. But I know I'm giving you like a 7-minute answer, but no, there was nobody else I really considered. I certainly thought about some people and went through some names and bounced some ideas off different people that I trust. But all in all, in my mind, Coach Shula was always the direction that I was going to go. One, he's a fantastic coach. He's maybe overqualified for the position in some ways, but really the continuity was critical with me. Just the relationship that he has with Lenoris and our other quarterbacks, knowing the offense. I wasn't fired up about bringing in a new offensive coordinator, and our whole offense has to learn a whole new offensive system as well. I didn't think that was the best thing for us right now. So when you have a highly qualified guy in your building that can do the job and hopefully make us even better, it was a pretty easy decision from my standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it with Mike Shula, he worked with Lenoris last year. He was, part of the offensive brain trust along with Dow and Mike Furry and the rest of the offensive coaches. Then you look at the idea of Shula's track record, his experience. You want someone who is, familiar with working with Lenore Sellers, because that's a thing, and understands the offense that they're running, which is, what's best for Lenore Sellers also. And Mike Shula has all this experience, been an offensive coordinator in the NFL, obviously. He's not only worked with Cam Newton, he worked with David Garrard in Jacksonville. So, I mean, he's got the track record and the resume, and that you like, obviously, and then you keep the continuity and the familiarity that's been going on for Lenore Sellers from last year. Now, obviously, you want this offense to grow and evolve. And the number one thing of that is the development of Lenore Sellers, because that will make the offense grow and evolve. The better Lenore is, the better the offense is. I thought Mike Shula had a couple interesting things to say about Sellers. Here, let's get to cut 14, Ed Bird. Here's new offensive coordinator Mike Shula talking about taking Lenore Sellers to the next level as a quarterback.
Well, number one, it's pretty exciting, and he's he'd probably get mad if I say this, so don't tell him. But some of those runs he's had, maybe where he was just terrific running it, he probably could have got the ball out on time and where he didn't have to run it. But and that's what I mean by with experience, that's just going to only make him more dangerous. And again, he's got it's his first year playing. He's done a lot of cool things. We've won a lot of games because of him. And moving forward, if he stays on that right path, it's going to be hopefully equate to a lot of wins. But he knows that with experience he'll get better, and he works hard at it. He doesn't look back on what he's done and say and act like he's arrived or anything like that. And then as far as continuing to help him and the things that we're going to do, we want to, number one, just build on what D'Lo has done. He's done a great job. I mean, and again, I can't say it enough. I'm so grateful for him reaching out and allowing me to come here and Coach Beamer just to be wanted, number one, to be a part of this. And in our meetings with the offensive staff, it's not that it really mattered to D'Lo, but it was easy for me to just kind of think we kind of thought a lot alike. And I think now, because of that, we're going to continue to do what we're doing, build on, maybe expand a little bit as Lenore gets more experienced, and try to make it better. But what D'Lo started this year, especially right at the beginning of fall camp, guys really took to it, embraced it, and he challenged them. And talk about a guy that clearly communicates with players, and especially with the quarterbacks, he's that guy, and just kind of want to continue to build off that.
Yeah, that's the thing, is where you're going with Lenore Sellers is, building some of the nuts and bolts things, the boring stuff. The things of, reading defenses better, going through your progressions quicker, getting rid of the ball quicker, not missing those open receivers, just the whole recognition of playing the position, the little things that we go, yeah, whatever, dude, just make plays so you score points. And the other stuff, you continue to work on the development when it comes to fundamentals and footwork and all these things that go into making a quarterback better. That's what will get Lenore Sellers to the next level. Is Mike Shula going to tweak the offense a bit? I could see that. Maybe, expand some things out. Look to do some more things that Lenore Sellers could play to his strengths. Sure. But the most important thing for Lenore Sellers is continue to grow as a quarterback, and that will make this offense better. And that's part of Mike Shula's gig as the OC/quarterback coach. Also, it's trending into a sad, sad day here at the game. Our good buddy, Gamecock Larry, has passed away. And, my 3 years here, Larry was nothing but great to me. Always called, talked to me. Called me that Yankee, I think, a few hundred times. Got to meet him at the golf tournament, August of 2022. He came out, hung out with us. Just great guy to talk to. I mean, love the Gamecocks. Love the Gamecocks like nobody's business. The most positive, not glass half full, glass was all the way full Gamecocks fan. Every year, every team is going undefeated, unless spoken otherwise. Started calling this radio station from the get-go all those years ago. And was still calling up even yesterday, I do believe, yesterday morning. We will miss him. Like, the words can't describe how much we'll miss him, calling and being part of our day here at the game. And there's a lot of people who will miss him, not just his family and his friends, but this community who listened to Larry call every day. Whether he was telling a cool story or just giving his opinion on the Gamecocks or giving his opinion on us. We're going to miss you, my friend. We really will. And our condolences to Larry's family and friends. Gamecock Larry, again, passing away earlier this morning. Greatest day in the history of the world is coming up next here on the Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Ed Burt on the Game. Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Look, you've been putting it off. If you're a guy and you don't feel right. You don't feel like you used to. You're getting older and the things that were natural aren't natural anymore. You can't remember everything. You need a grocery list now. You can't remember off the top of your head. You don't know where you left the keys half the time. You don't sleep as well as you used to. That the weight used to pound on the bench, you can't do it anymore. And you don't recover from a workout like you used to. You don't have the same drive, personal life, sex life, professional life, just your life in general. Could be low testosterone. Quit putting it off. 803-875-MENS. Call the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Go in. Tell the folks what's going on with you. If they think it could be low T, they'll do some lab work. If it comes back low testosterone, they'll put you on a program to make you feel like you again. 803-875-MENS. Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird here as we roll till 3 on the game. Time for the greatest day in the history of the world. We'll recheck a day in history, sports history. We always try to do a little old school. Get you something way, way back in the day in history and try to dig up a little bit of something on it. On this day, 1943, a guy named Harry Lumley, at 17 years and 38 days old, becomes the youngest goaltender in NHL history when he plays for the Detroit Red Wings in a 6-2 loss to the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden. Not even 18 was Harry Lumley when he made his debut. Lumley played for the Red Wings, Rangers, Blackhawks, Maple Leafs, and Bruins between 1943 and 1960. Won the Vezina Trophy for being the goaltender to allow the fewest goals in 1954. Won a Stanley Cup with the Red Wings in 1950. Lumley elected to the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1980. He was known as Apple Cheeks. Interesting. So Harry Lumley, who had a long career in the NHL, started off at the age of 17 on this day in 1943 between the pipes for the Detroit Red Wings. Also, this greatest day in the history of the world, this was crazy. 1976. The Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Baltimore Colts in an AFC playoff game, whipped the Colts 40-14 in Baltimore. 10 minutes after the game, a dude named Donald Croner, a former charter pilot, crashes a rented Piper Cherokee into the upper deck of Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. No one is seriously hurt. Why? Because it was such a blowout, most people left. If that would have been a close game, or if the Colts were winning, Memorial Stadium would have been packed with people going crazy and nuts and insane. And that could have been a huge tragedy. But instead, because the Steelers curb stomped the Colts, most of the folks had left the upper deck. Pretty much everybody was out of the upper deck. So when that plane crashed, no one was seriously hurt. Just a crazy story. Also, greatest day in the history of the world, 1990, some dude named Bo Jackson was named to the AFC Pro Bowl team as a reserve, becoming the first athlete to be chosen for an all-star game in 2 different sports. Of course, Bo Jackson, the MVP of the Major League Baseball all-star game. In 2001, you might remember this, Marshall, led by Byron Leftwich, comes back from a 38-8 halftime deficit to beat East Carolina in double overtime in the GMAC Bowl. It was the highest scoring bowl game in college football history. Again, 38-8. Marshall was down at the half, came back and won in double overtime, 64-61. Crazy game. Crazy game. 2007, New York Islander forward Chris Simon is banned for 30 games, drawing the longest suspension in NHL history. Simon's latest infraction was stepping on a Pittsburgh Penguin player with his skate during a December 15th game, the 7th suspension of Simon's career. 2009, Michael Phelps helps the American team beat up on the European All-Stars, duel in the pool, anchoring a relay to one of the 8 world records the U.S. set in that 2-day meet in Manchester, England. 2010, this was interesting. You might remember this one. Philadelphia's Deshaun Jackson returns a punt 65 yards for a touchdown as time expired, as the Eagles come back to beat the Giants 38-31. It's the only game-winning punt return touchdown in NFL history. The Eagles were down 31-10 in the fourth quarter and marked the 9th time in NFL history a team trailed by at least 21 points in the fourth quarter came back to win the game. The Giants were so criticized for giving up that punt return for a touchdown. And in 2010, on this day, the Detroit Lions, they stop their road losing streak. It was 26 straight on the road they had lost. They beat Tampa Bay 23-20 in overtime. Their first road win in over 3 years when they beat the Bears. No truth to the rumor, they then relegated Tampa Bay to the CFL. 2017, freshman Trey Young scored 26 points, tied Division I record with 22 assists. Number 17, Oklahoma beat Northwestern State. Trey Young was a thing his 1 year at Oklahoma, especially the first half of the season. Gino Auriemma wins his 1,000th game as top-ranked UConn beat Oklahoma in the Hall of Fame Women's Holiday Showcase. Auriemma becomes the fourth women's coach to reach the 1,000-win mark, joining Pat Summitt, Tara Vanderveer, and Sylvia Hatchell, who earned that milestone earlier on the same day. So that's what's going on. Greatest day in the history of the world, December 19th. All right, Firehouse Sub Text the Hour coming up. Also, we'll do a little handoff with our buddy Elijah Campbell as well. And maybe even get a little Mike Shula sound in before we get out of here. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Ed Bird for one more segment here on the game. Elijah Campbell hanging out with us. Terry Ford, Ed Bird, finishing up the halftime show. Firehouse Subtext, the hour, 803-404-6100. I know it was expected, but I absolutely despise players opting out. I don't hold it against them personally any longer, but as a military guy, I just can't stand someone not being there for their teammates. I understand why certain players would opt out. It is a smart play, but I do put loyalty above money and personal gain in my life. And look, I get it. I do. I understand why, because it goes against everything, Elijah, that we were taught about team growing up. All of us, right?
Right.
You know, we were always taught it's about team, and it's, you know, everybody's there for each other. You got each other's back, and now we use the fancy word brotherhood and all that stuff, right? So, yeah, I mean, the first thought is, how can you walk out on your dudes? Mm-hmm. I mean, you're in this together. You got one game left. You're going for 10 wins or whatever it is.
Right.
But there is a business side to this. And as much as the personal side or the people who played sports on whatever levels side, the business side of this thing is, again, I use it all the time. You don't want a Jalen Smith.
That's the worst example.
Yeah.
That changed his career significantly.
Yeah, and
he was never the same after that injury.
No, and yeah, he did play in the NFL, but he wasn't a first-round pick, so he lost money there. Yeah, he did get a second contract, but he was never the same player, and he never was the player he could have been in the NFL. And his career, I think his career also was short-circuited in length because of what happened to him. And if you don't know, he was playing in a bowl game for Notre Dame, and he tore everything that ends in L in his knee.
Yeah, every ligament imagine. It was a gruesome injury.
Yes. So I mean, so that's the one is always talked about when you opt out. You don't want to be that guy. So you want to, save yourself from a possible injury. Also, you want to get to work on all the things you got to get to work on to get prepared for the drafts, what we call the silly season, which is coming.
Yep.
The last legit thing is the All-Star game because, you're playing against other high-level guys, so you get to see a guy play in an All-Star situation or setting, and but the important thing, like, the East-West Shrine game is really about the practices.
Oh, the practices are 90% of what that whole experience is about, so you can get evaluated in how you practice in very specific, like, controlled environments.
So I understand why Kyle Kennard would opt out. And like the texter says, you're not mad at a guy. I mean, he's protecting his future, his professional future, his livelihood, his earnings. And I totally understand it. And I always put myself in the spot, okay, if you're that guy, what would you do?
Yeah, that's a really
and you don't truly know until you're there, right?
Yep.
But I mean, I probably would lean to opting out and protecting my money.
Mm-hmm. Especially if I knew if I was almost a guaranteed first rounder,
or at least for a second round.
Yeah,
I mean, because second round money's good.
It's still pretty. It's solid.
And sometimes if you're in the second round and you pop, you're going to get that second bite quicker because remember, one less year on the rookie deal. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get yours quicker if you're a second round pick and you become a heck of a player,
an impact player right away.
I mean, again, the first round guy gets more money and you get that extra year, but. Still, if you're a first round, high second round pick and you want to opt out, go get him if you want to handle your business. But I get what the texter's saying, and there's a part of me that agrees with that loyalty thing to the dudes you play with all year or you played with. And Kennard was only here for 1 year, but there's still something every day. I mean, we've all played team sports at some level. There's something about going through all that with each other. There is.
Oh, yeah.
I get
especially when there's something on the line, kind of like what South Carolina has, which is a chance to do something that's only happened 4 times in the history of this program. Like, there's history that's on the line here. There's putting a cherry on top of what was a phenomenal season where you surpassed all expectations and were able to do something that is incredibly special. And I think like being able to end a season like that would be really, really neat. I would get the allure of coming back. Like, this is not just, this isn't the Meineke Car Care Bowl. Right. This is a pretty, prestigious bowl game for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, we know what the Citrus Bowl is. Some of these bowl games like, well, what the hell is this thing? What kind of furniture bowl is this? What did it used to be? Did it used to be something? Now, and there is that pull to come back, and that's why. And look, again, just to be clear, I totally understand why Kyle Kennard's doing it.
Yep.
I really do. And no, not going to dog the guy for protecting his future. Totally understand. But I do also get that loyalty side of it. But so far, he's the only guy. There's one other dude. We just played the cut a little while ago. Shane saying one other guy's on the fence. Everybody else is in right now. And really, could we have to play the game? I said earlier, my first thought is Nick Emenwari. Because Emenwari is to me, I think Emenwari is a solid second-round pick.
Yeah.
He's a number 2 safety on Mel Kiper's big board. And I think Nick is going to destroy the Underwear Olympics with his physical traits. He might get himself in the bottom of the first round, possibly, but I do think he'll hear his name in the second round. He might be the other guy that thinks about it. You any other direction for you? That's the first guy that came to my head.
I was thinking him or maybe TJ Sanders because of his stock rising. I've seen mock drafts on CBS within the last month that have had both of those guys as first round picks. Occasionally, because they have like 8 dudes that do mocks.
Isn't it funny? That's all they do at CBS. Is just
there's so many mock drafts, and I like 2 of the 8. One had Nick Emenwari as a first rounder. The other had TJ Sanders as a first rounder. The other one maybe Rocket Sanders solely because of the running back position. It's so devalued in the NFL that, like, look, Ashton Genty is going to be a first round pick because of what he did, and it took almost breaking a record that is been withstanding since 1988, and taking a team to a college football playoff. That's like what it takes to get first round type recognition. He's probably looking 4th, 5th round in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
And in the way running backs are viewed too, if you have a lot of mileage, that's a turnoff for a lot of teams.
Yeah. Or injury history.
Or injury history. And he already has a little bit of injury history. And playing, in a game which you'd still get 15 to 25 carries, maybe. I don't know what exactly he would be in the game plan or how much he would be utilized, but just on principle, running backs saving the mileage, right, is something that they would probably behoove them if they're going into the NFL draft just because of the state of the position. So that's my kind of wild card on who might not play without any internal knowledge of the situation, just kind of the background of how the NFL views the running back position.
Yeah, I feel like Rocket would be a day 3 guy. I believe that's when he would hear his name. If he hears his name, it would be a day 3 guy. But yeah, it's like this, right? How much would he gain playing in the bowl game against Illinois and having one of those days where he goes for $140 or something?
15 carries,
I mean, is
3 touchdowns.
that going to up his stock in comparison to all the stuff we just brought up on the negative side? So those are the only guys. And TJ Sanders, it's interesting that, coming into the year, he was looked at because, his value as a pass rusher from the interior. And he's up to stock through the season. And, he's
consistent.
He is. I've seen it anywhere from 3rd to 4th. I mean, because God knows you're right. CBS has 5 million mock drafts. Ryan Wilson at CBS. We used to have Ryan Wilson on all the time on other shows I've done before.
Wilson.
And Ryan Wilson said, Ryan, which mock draft you up to? I've lost track. I think it's number 42. But Sanders is a guy. I don't think he's going to go past the 4th round.
No.
And he might even go 3rd round.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he slips past.
Because I think a guy that can put heat on quarterbacks from the interior is so valuable. It's just going to take one team to look at him and say, yeah, he might not be a 3-down guy, but we're going to put him out there and he's going to chase quarterbacks. And somebody might pop him in the 3rd round. And like you said, who knows? Maybe even sooner. He's a real wild card where he could go, but he's going to go.
Yeah,
he's going to go. He's going to go upper half of the draft.
And in terms of talking about positional value, the interior defensive lineman. I mean, you saw what Jeffrey Simmons is making now over in Tennessee, and you saw what Aaron Donald made. If you're able to make your way at that position, because there just aren't many interior defensive linemen who play that Fletcher Cox role, who are just elite pass rushers from the interior and can absolutely destroy the middle of an offensive line. If you prove that, or if you can convince an NFL team you're that guy, I wouldn't be surprised to see them reach for somebody like that because that is such a rarity in the NFL.
We got the old post-game show. Who's hanging out with you today?
My man Alan Cole from Gamecocks Scoop. We heading back here from CLA after the women's game. After he's done with his coverage there, he's going to hang out from 4:30 to 6.
Are we letting him in the building too?
Oh, yeah.
Has he gone through the intense security clearance that he needs to come into the building?
Finally, yeah. It only took an hour last time. But
so how long was he in the room across the hall? Room.
For that one, probably 2 hours.
All right, post-game show's like, Ed Bird, fine job, my friend. We appreciate you.